Canada's first ministers huddle in Ottawa with Trump, trade, and national unity, all on the menu. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's a full day of meetings for Prime Minister Carney and Canada's premiers. Meeting started about 3 hours ago in the nation's capital. And in about 2 hours from now, Prime Minister Carney will emerge to tell us how it went. Ahead of the meeting, a few premiers stopped and spoke to the news media. It's no secret some premiers have differences with their counterparts. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and BC Premier David Eby don't necessarily see eye to eye on a pipeline. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew and Ontario Premier Doug Ford don't agree on Premier Ford's decision to ban the sale of Crown Royal whiskey. But Saskatchewan's Premier Scott Moe suggested these are just small disagreements in the grand scheme of things.
Pretty minor divisions when you look at the challenges that we're facing as Canadians with respect to our market access around the world, but also in with our largest trading partner, the United States of America. And so, certainly we're going to have differences in the diversity that we have from coast to coast to coast. That's fair. And I think what Canadians should very much be thankful for is that their provincial leaders and their federal leader are in a room discussing not only those differences, but discussing how we can, come together to really lay out what our trade relationships are going to look like.
But it was BC Premier David Eby who decided to open the big can of worms today. Premier Eby took a moment, unprompted by any question from a news reporter, to lash out at some of the organizers of the independence movement in Alberta, citing a news report in the Financial Times of London. That news report outlines again how a separatist group is courting help from the White House, and he accused these Alberta separatists of treason.
I read an article last night in the Financial Times about a group of people from Alberta, I won't describe them as Albertans, who went to the White House seeking the assistance of the United States to break up our country. Now, I understand the desire to hold a referendum, to talk about the issues you want to talk about in Canada. We got free speech, that's important. But to go to a foreign country and to ask for assistance in breaking up Canada, there's an old-fashioned word for that, and that word is treason. It is completely inappropriate to seek to weaken Canada, to seek to go and ask for assistance to break up this country from a foreign power. And with respect, a president who has not been particularly respectful of Canada's sovereignty. I'm going to be raising that issue at this table. I think that while we can respect the right of any Canadian to express themselves, to vote in a referendum, I think we need to draw the line at people seeking the assistance of foreign countries to break up this beautiful land of ours that our forefathers, our foremothers, our parents, our grandparents fought for. There is a line.
The issue of national unity also came up yesterday, not in the Alberta context, but rather because of what's happening in Quebec. There's going to be an election in Quebec this fall, and the Separatist Party Québécois is the heavy favorite to win. The party is promising to hold a third sovereignty referendum. That would be a disaster, according to Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
It'd be a disaster for our country if the Separatists got elected. It's as simple as that. We have to be a united Canada right now. There's never been a more important time in our history to make sure that we stand shoulder to shoulder, united. And not only it'll be good for Canada, it will be good for Quebecers. So folks, remember that. You want to thrive, you want to prosper, you'll prosper a lot more as a united Canada.
Not to be outdone, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew was asked to weigh in on the national unity issue. He sounded somewhat surprised. There were so many questions about it.
There was some conversation yesterday among premiers about different referenda. Don't get a chance to use the word plural of referendum very often, so I'm going to use it, referenda. We had some conversations, and the joke that I said from Manitoba's perspective is like, wow, all this referendum talk makes me want to have a referendum too, except in Manitoba, the question is going to be, do you want to stay a part of Canada? And the two choices are going to be yeah and heck yeah.
Premier Canoe sounded much more excited about another issue today. He told reporters that there's a big energy company that wants to be part of what's known as Churchill Plus. That's a plan to rebuild and expand the port of Churchill and make it a major northern trading hub. Premier Canoe says his government is going to sign a non-disclosure agreement with this unnamed company.
We've been working with the Major Projects Office for the past number of months and have co-written a charter for this project, which scopes it out. With the Major Projects Office, we are hiring a consultant to begin market sounding this coming month, and that'll turn around a final report in April that will give us the ability to really flesh out the numbers to make this project work. At the same time, we've been engaging the Arctic Research Foundation to scope out the exact criteria for an icebreaker to expand the shipping season. And that will include, by the way, working with the Baffinland mine further north to potentially share resources around icebreaking capacity to get more Canadian resources, both to international markets, but also potentially to import the highest purity iron ore in the world to mainland Canada so that we could feed mills, whether that's in Selkirk or the Algoma or other facilities around the country.
Premier Canoe claims Churchill Plus would solve a lot of Canada's problems all at once. He says it would get Western Canadian energy to new markets while protecting the West Coast. He says there would be shipbuilding opportunities for Atlantic Canada, Quebec, and Ontario. And he said it would support Arctic independence. Again, the First Minister's meeting still underway in Ottawa. Prime Minister Carney scheduled to hold a news conference in a little more than 2 hours from now. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
He's my friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is a syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. How are you?
I'm well, Rob. How are you doing today?
Good. You're all dug out?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's still a lot of snow around the city, and there's huge mounds in the neighborhoods, which hopefully they'll clear one of these days, but I am dug out for sure.
That's good. Good to hear. We'll talk about that a little later, I hope.
Sure.
Let's turn our attention to Calgary. Conservative Party convention starts in Calgary today. Everyone is, talking about leadership vote, Pierre Poilievre, but I don't think that's in doubt what's going to happen. And I know you don't think so either, that Pierre Poilievre will probably cruise through that. I want to talk about something else, because when they have these conventions, delegates debate many policies, and some will become official party policy for the Conservative Party, and others will just, be tossed into the dustbin. Right. So let's discuss a few.
Okay.
One is compelled speech. Conservative Party, I'm quoting here, recognizes freedom of speech as a hallmark of a free society. Right. Compelled speech in any form is a violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Individual freedoms of thought, belief, opinion, and expression supersede all compelled speech. So that's one. Mm-hmm. Another one harkens back, I suspect, to the Freedom Convoy. It's about debanking. Quote, the Conservative Party believes no Canadian should be deprived of essential financial services based on personal beliefs or lawful activities. The Conservative government will enact legislation to safeguard Canadians from arbitrary debanking practices. And another one is property rights. Property rights. Conservative Party believes the government should seek the agreement of the provinces to amend the Constitution to include property rights. We can't go in. We could talk an hour. But what do you think, say, would be some major themes here? What do you think about the delegates debating these issues?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Again, a lot of issues come into play during party conventions, some of which are seen, as you said, as tangible, and others are just more for debate. Or if the party believes that they're too controversial, because, sometimes things can be brought up even on the convention floor that actually people want to talk about, that grassroots members might be interested in, but the party brass is not necessarily that fascinated with, and they'll try to kill it as fast as possible. May not be fair, may not be democratic, but that's how these things are run. Of the three that you've mentioned, I think two of them are pretty straightforward, although they might go through obviously a bit of adjustments and edits to it. The first one for compelled speech, submission 1432, free speech and intellectual discourse are important parts, not only of the Conservative Party, but other political parties on the left pay lip service to them as well. I think that is something that is important. It should be enshrined. It is enshrined as part of our Constitution, even though I would argue and have argued for many years, and I'm not the only one, that free speech is really truly the mantra of the United States and not as much here. We have it, we just don't go as far with it. The interesting thing will be for that maybe, again, it's something I've broached a lot of times in columns and others have too, whether we start talking about free speech versus so-called hate speech, because that's something that the Liberals have been getting very heavily involved in, which we've seen with the Online Act and various other things where they've been attacking what they believe to be hate speech. But if you truly believe in the nature of freedom of speech and what it actually represents, that as long as there's no violence involved in it, that everything should be on the table for discussion. So it'll be interesting to see if that's where it goes to. The other one, very quickly, property rights and private property rights. I think that's very, very simple. Conservatives and libertarians by nature firmly believe in property rights. It's also interesting that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is there as that's being discussed, because as you may remember, way back when, I'm showing my gray hairs, my old friend Danielle was actually the leader of a property rights institute in Alberta. So this is something that's very much up her alley. I wouldn't be shocked if she poked her nose in to see what's going on and to discuss it. And I think it's an easy issue. The debanking will be an interesting one, simply because of what happened during the Freedom Convoy, as you correctly pointed out, Rob. Again, I think it's a relevant issue. I think governments intervening in that matter goes beyond, the acceptance of what the state should or should not do in society. So I think that will certainly be a topical one. Whether that moves to the forefront at all or becomes part of conservative policy, I'm not sure. It would certainly make sense to, but that could be regarded as a controversial one. But it depends if they sort of stick to the script and discuss it directly as the nature of the Freedom Convoy or just debanking in general, or if it goes off in a tangent. Again, we'll have to see.
Okay. So when we come back, I do want to ask you about, it was an epic snowstorm. In excess of 60 centimeters of snow in Toronto, but no signs of the armed forces or anything like that, which always comes up whenever Toronto gets a lot of snow, given the actions of Mayor Lastman. But
that's right.
Snow removal is a very basic city service in any Canadian city, and Olivia Chow is seeking re-election this fall. I want to ask you about this when we return. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Michael Taube, is here for his weekly visit. If you think back, Michael, longtime resident of the city of Toronto, to 2009, there was a garbage strike in Toronto. And that really hurt the mayor at the time, David Miller. People were upset with how the city was being run. And, then they had stinky garbage piling up in the streets. And it pointed to a certain amount of dysfunction at the city hall. And I would actually argue it kind of ushered in the Ford era in Toronto and later all across Ontario, that garbage strike.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not totally convinced by that, but nevertheless.
Well, there were other things that also happened as well, Rob. But yes, it certainly laid a little bit of the groundwork. I agree with that.
Right. Okay. Snow removal. A lot of snow. Like 60 plus centimeters is a lot of snow anywhere in the country, and Toronto doesn't usually get that much snow. But snow removal is a basic city service, and if you're the mayor facing re-election in a municipal election later this year, like Olivia Chow is, you want to get this right. Toronto has a lot of problems already. Big property taxes, poor traffic, a lot of people, questioning city services already. So this is, to me, a bit of a test for her administration. How's the snow removal going?
Yeah, it is definitely a test. You're absolutely right. This is the biggest one-day or 24-hour snowfall in recorded history in the city of Toronto. It even beats out a number that my father used to tell me when he was young in 1944. And you're right, it almost hit in certain areas with, the wind swirling and whatnot. It might have hit about 60 centimeters. The recorded for the downtown core, I believe, was about 56, 57 at the end of it. And at Toronto Pearson Airport, it was about 46 or so. When you put everything together, this was by far the worst, which means that Mayor Olivia Chow, who was heavily criticized last year, and with good reason, for poor snow removal in Toronto, she realizes, as her advisors do, that this is an election year this year, and they have to get on it, and they have to do it better, especially because it was a bigger snow drop in 2026. And is it better overall? I would say that certainly, to be fair, it's been a little bit better. I mean, the main roads have certainly been open nicely. But again, there's massive snow mounds in the neighborhoods, which makes it difficult to drive around. Again, they'll get to it eventually. But the key is Toronto is not like, say, Ottawa or Montreal or other parts of the country where snow removal is not only ingrained in them, they have the proper machinery and get to it really fast. Toronto over the last 10 years just hasn't had that much snow, not as much experience. If you go back in history, decades, you'll see that if you go to the Toronto Historical Society, Ontario Archives, you'll see lots of people out shoveling tons of snow. Toronto used to get a lot. But I think that Olivia Chow will probably try to pat herself on the back that they got to it a bit faster. But again, some of the main arteries, some of the main roads were not in great shape. Some were still one lane instead of two, including places not too far from me. So, I mean, is it better than last year? Yes. But is it enough to say we conquered the snow in Toronto? No. Right. And I think a lot of people will use it against her.
Like, is it coming up in, say, municipal political discussions? Councillor Bradford is going to be one of her opponents in the municipal election. Has he, been critical of the city's response or anything like that?
I mean, nothing that I would say would be a significant quote, but yes, I think a lot of councillors who are opposing her certainly have said that, it might be a bit better and it might be a bit more manageable, but we need to get to it faster, especially when you have a dump like this. You had tons and you have tons through Ottawa, Montreal, Hull, etc. What it's like. We forgot, but we need to do it better.
Okay. He means a dump of snow, not that Toronto's a dump. Okay.
No. Interpret it as you wish, but no, That's what I meant, yes.
I know you'll be watching the Conservative Party convention.
I will.
Enjoy the show. Mr. Poilievre's speech is tomorrow evening, about 8:30 in the Eastern time zone. So maybe we'll talk about that next week when you join us. We'll see how that all turns out for him. Thank you, Michael.
Good.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Michael Taube, a columnist, speechwriter, with us every Thursday. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's our Thursday Newsday political panel, and it's a new weekly feature that we're starting this week. It's called Focus Nova Scotia. We expect to be joined shortly by Jordi Morgan. He's a Director of Strategic Growth and Partnerships for Atlantic Canada at Enterprise Canada. No stranger to our listeners in Nova Scotia. We'll connect with him shortly. Matt Whynot is here. He's a former NDP MLA and political commentator. Matt Whynot, great to hear from you today. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. No worries.
I want to begin with Nova Scotia and the federal political scene. I think in a word you would call it red.
Most certainly.
Meat Cove to Yarmouth. In the last federal election, the Liberals won almost every seat in Nova Scotia. Now they have every seat in Nova Scotia because of the floor crossing of Chris d'Entremont. You have the Conservative leader, Mr. Poilievre, facing a leadership vote tomorrow in Calgary. He was campaigning in your province ahead of the vote. There's speculation the Prime Minister might even call a snap election. Let's say that unfolded. Do you think anything would change in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, things are, time is just a snapshot, right, of what's going on. That's why we always talk about polls, right? Polls are just a snapshot in time. And I would say that campaigns matter, right? And it depends on, there's a whole bunch of factors at play. I think you probably will see the status quo. I think that, New Democrats took a beating, and we've all talked about that. We're going through a leadership race that will no doubt, rejuvenate some of what's going on in the party, and we'll see. I think no matter what, we'll be ready, and we're going to fight like hell for Canadians, and knock on as many doors with our candidates as we possibly can. Connect people where they're at and talk about the issues that they actually care about.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the New Democrats. I mean, there was a poll yesterday from Leger that had the Liberals at 47% support nationally, and the NDP at 5%. That's where the NDP is at right now. Look, Nova Scotians have sent many New Democrat MPs to Ottawa over the years. Alexa McDonough, Peter Stauffer, Megan Leslie, Wendy Lill, Robert Chisholm, Gordon Earl, Peter Mancini. I mean, the party has had a beachhead in Nova Scotia. But are there any signs of life these days for the NDP in Nova Scotia? The party didn't even run candidates in some ridings the last time around.
Yeah, that was an administration thing. That was one riding, but I think I would say again, polls are a snapshot in time. We want to make sure that we're connecting with Canadians on the issues that they care about. I would argue that you look back in time where parties go up and down, right? Let's not forget when the PC Party of Canada had, after the 1993 election, had 2 seats, right? The NDP in 1997, coming after that 93 election, the NDP in 1997 actually won 6 of the 11 federal seats in Nova Scotia, not just in Atlantic Canada, but in Nova Scotia, and won 2 seats in New Brunswick, which is, unheard of. So there are, when you connect, when you talk about the things Canadians care about, and they look at that leader and say, you know what, they're fighting for me. That's when things change. And so I think there is I don't know if it's a magic sauce or there's a road to get there. I think there is. Will it happen next election or the one after that? We don't know. But I will say, there are these wave elections that happen. Look at 2011, right? Where we became the official opposition and the Liberals down to 44 seats. So things can happen. And, I know that after our leadership convention, they'll be refocusing on how we connect with Canadians.
Okay. Jordi Morgan has joined us here. Jordi, great to hear from you. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Listen, if I get a call from somebody from Cape Breton, I'm going to go on their radio program. So, absolutely.
That's very kind. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Look, we were just mentioning, it's red. It's Liberal red from one tip of the province to the other. Matt seems to be thinking, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Matt. Things can change. Maybe that's a one-off. How do you say Prime Minister Carney calls a snap election as some people in Ottawa think he's going to? Do you think anything would change in Nova Scotia?
Well, I'm one of these guys that thinks elections actually count. And I think the last time around we saw that. The picture prior to the last election, and, there was a wholesale change in the way things shook out. I mean, when you look at South Shore, St. Margaret's, or you look at, what happened down the valley in King's Hants, or you look at, Cumberland Colchester, which is, the home of Robert Stanfield. And I could name Pictou County, go all the way through there. Before we saw the massive turnaround during the last election, it was expected that the majority of Nova Scotia was going to be blue. So what I would say is, we do have people in this province that will vote Conservative. And I think when I talk about Conservative, I lump in Progressive Conservative and Conservative together. spite of the fact that there are those who would like to delineate between the two, is that we have a fairly strong progressive conservative and conservative population here who will vote if they feel that it is going to serve their needs. And we've seen that in the past. And an election, could, provide that framework. So would anything change? I'm not somebody who is, I'm not Nostradamus, but I can say that looking at history, I think there's a possibility that, you could see a significant change. And even to Matt's point, I mean, we've had majority NDP governments here. People are willing to look at what's on the table and then make decisions based on that.
Well, what's your sense of where Team Orange is right now? With a poll yesterday that puts NDP support nationally at 5%. Are there any signs of life for the NDP in that province, in your opinion?
I think it depends. What happens in the leadership is going to make a big difference. I would say that, and I think Matt might agree with me on this one, I think that if Ashton is leader, it's going to be different than if Abby Lewis is leader. That people are going to look at those as two very different parties. And, if you've got somebody who's really going to marginalize, and I say that, I think without a lot of, there's not a lot of controversy to say that Abby Lewis would marginalize the NDP, then I think that you're going to see a different outcome than if you have somebody that's a little bit, would, I think, be more... a
little bit more from the labor side? Like from
a little more, I think that's more palatable for a larger section of the country.
Gotcha. Okay. When we come back, where does Nova Scotia fit into the Prime Minister's quest to build big things? Let's talk about that when we come back. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
It's our new panel called Focus Nova Scotia with Matt Whynot, former NDP MLA, Jordi Morgan from Enterprise Canada. The Prime Minister wants to build big things and build them fast. He's opened the Major Projects Office. What major projects, Jordi, are under consideration and realistic for Nova Scotia?
I think that the Premier, has put a lot of eggs in the basket of Win West. And, I think for pretty good reason, from the point of view that it is a unique resource that we have. He's also looking at natural gas. They're looking at offshore, onshore natural gas. Basically, resource development has been struggling in this part of the world for a long time. There's been a propensity to say no to things. The Premier's position on this is let's start saying yes to some of these projects. And there are some people who are starting to show up, coming to the table for these now. I think most notably is we saw a French consortium along with Hanwha, which is another, major player in the submarine deal, and we can talk about that as well, from Korea, that have said, yeah, we're interested in this offshore wind project. But the other big one, and people are starting to talk about this now, is obviously defense. We have an enormous defense footprint in Halifax, and the idea of submarine maintenance facility here, we've got new ships that are coming in, big investment in the Navy. Those are obviously enormously impactful in terms of our economy.
Yeah, what's your read of things, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny, what's old is new again, right? So natural gas in Nova Scotia, we heard this story a long time ago, and then all we did was we shipped it down to the States and didn't really use a lot of it for our own power generation and those types of things. So, it'll be interesting. Certainly the fracking stuff, the uranium mining stuff that the Premier's talking about. He's going full tilt on this, and I think when you talk to some of the public and Nova Scotia's, I mean, I'm not an expert in geology and by no means, but from what I understand, it's we can be doing some pretty big damage to just the way our province is made up, some damage to folks as well, and well water and those types of things. So we got to be super careful on that stuff. Now, I'm glad that Jordi actually mentioned about the defense stuff because, I literally 2 weeks ago just went down and toured the Irving shipbuilding. In 2011, that shipyard employed 300, 400 people. Now it's employing 3,500 with 11,500 indirect jobs right here in Nova Scotia alone. So having that is actually a proud moment because, as much as one of the reasons why as a government, as New Democrats, we lost power in my mind is the Irving shipbuilding contract. But for a $300 million investment by the province, now the shipbuilding contract is $85 billion and still going to grow. A $300 million investment.
Who knows? Maybe someday they'll actually get a ship in the water. Who knows?
Well, there's about 8. They're on to number 8 right now. So, and they're getting their defense boats ships going right now. So, pretty impressive. So we gotta manufacture things. We gotta give, and those are good union, family paying jobs, and that's what we need to do. And if we're gonna do the Win West stuff, it needs to be looked at. It needs to be examined. But at the same time, let's make sure we're building it with Canadian products, Canadian workers, and not just bringing people in from other countries. Sure. To do the work.
I'm just wondering, from a public opinion point of view, like fracking is always controversial. There was a moratorium. It's been lifted by the Houston government. How's that going over? Jordi, how's that going over?
I haven't seen any recent polls on how people feel about fracking. I wouldn't expect that it's changed much. I think that what you've got to take into consideration is that is one piece of a much larger energy puzzle that is being put forward by the government. I mean, you've got oil, you've got natural gas, you've got wind, you've got green hydrogen, you've got, they're now talking about doing sustainable jet fuel and creating that out of biomass. I mean, there is an entire suite of things. So if people get their head wrapped around saying, well, we can't do this because they're going to use hydraulic fracturing, there's also been enormous improvements in terms of technology about how this stuff is done. So I think the best approach to this is say, look, there are a lot of environmental considerations. We have to be clear about what they are and transparent. But at the same time, we also have to understand that these natural resources have to be developed in order for us to have the money to do the things, to build the hospitals, to build the schools, to do the stuff that people need. Yeah. And the resource and economy horse leads the social cart. And we can't be sitting there expecting that, all we're going to do is get extracted fossil fuels from Alberta to pay for everything that we've got down here. It ticks people off in Alberta, and it bothers people who are trying to build a stronger economy in Nova Scotia as well.
Okay, we'll pick up on that. When we come back, we'll talk about the federal gun buyback program. Premier Houston, not a fan. And I'm a fan of this project. How about a tunnel? A tunnel between Nova Scotia and PEI. Seriously, they're talking about it on the island. Be right back. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Focus Nova Scotia, our political panel today with Matt Whynot, former NDP MLA, and from Enterprise Canada, Jordi Morgan. The gun buyback program, when I was a much younger man with much more hair, and it wasn't this color, and I was in Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia. The estimate at that time was there were probably more guns than people in Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia. They run the pilot program for the gun buyback program. They collect, 24 guns? Something like that from 16 people? You could go down Shore Road in Sydney Mines. I'd tell you, you could knock on one house, there'd be that many guns. Premier Houston has said this week on a political talk show that he's against the federal gun buyback program. Matt, what do you think about that?
Well, listen, the gun issue has been around for a long time. I know conservatives like to talk about that program because they're able to not just that program, but other things. They like to raise money with their donor base when in time to talk about guns. So, if one more gun off the streets makes everyone else safer, in my mind.
Jordi, what do you think?
This has been a disaster from the word go. It's not. I'm going to respectfully disagree with my friend and colleague over there about one gun off the street. Criminals are not lining up to give back their guns. The people that they're going out to get guns from, have some rusty old, grandpa's rabbit gun or whatever it is that's floating around. This idea that people are armed to the teeth and that there are assault weapons all over Nova Scotia. They're just waiting to emerge. I don't know, in the next great insurrection. But a couple of things are true. One, they put a pile of money in to try to get these guns back, and the results were bad. Secondly, this seems to be fairly consistent across the entire country. I think is it Quebec and BC? They're the only provinces I think that are actually interested in doing this and participating with the feds. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, now New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland and Labrador are saying we'd actually like to use our policing dollars for something that's a little bit more practical, like keeping our communities safe, rather than running around trying to find Grandpa's rabbit rifle. So I think at some point, and that's absolutely right. We've been talking about this. I remember talking about it in the 2000 election. So 25 years later, we're still having the same conversation. And at some point, the Liberals, I think, are going to say, we could spend $750 million on something that's a little bit more economically sensible and help maybe provide that to police departments to actually do policing.
Okay. A lot of fun today for me. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back again sometime.
We can talk about that tunnel to PEI.
I was just going to say, what the heck, man?
Can you imagine what the toll would be for that? It was $50 to take the bridge. All right. Thank you. That's Focus Nova Scotia with Matt Whynot and Jordi Morgan. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback. Oh, hot one today. Talkback. Are the Alberta separatists committing treason? Treason. David Eby thinks they are. We'll be right back with that one. I need your take on that. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. A hot one today. I need your take on a developing story. This is the big story now, the top story for all the news outlets. CBC, CTV, Globe Mail, National Post. Big story. And the day is far from over. So the premiers are all in Ottawa for a meeting with the Prime Minister. As I was getting ready for the show today, I was watching some of the premiers come to the microphone, speak to members of the Parliamentary Press Gallery about what they're hoping comes out of this meeting. And a lot of them are saying the same things. We need to stay united. We need to diversify our trade. We need to find new markets. We need to deal with the Trump administration, tariffs, all of the things that we've heard 100, if not 1,000 times before. But then Premier David Eby of British Columbia stepped up to the microphone and he decided to launch into a rant about separatism in Alberta. And the leaders of the Alberta Prosperity Project, pro-independence group, wasn't asked about it by any news reporter. He just felt the need to express an opinion on a story that's in the Financial Times of London. The Alberta separatism movement is now getting coverage in the international financial press. And I gather from David Eby's remarks, which you'll hear shortly, he is not too pleased with what's been going on. Because certain people in the Alberta separatist movement have made no bones about this. They are seeking help from the Trump administration. We talked about that a few weeks ago here. And this story that's in the Financial Times, that's what it's about, that these people go to Washington, they have meetings, and they're hoping that the Trump administration will support them in their cause to create an independent Alberta. And this has David Eby hot under the collar. He said this morning in Ottawa that these people are not real Albertans, and what they're doing is treason. They are traitors to Canada. Treason. He said they're committing treason. So let's play the clip here from the Premier of British Columbia in his own words. Let's roll the tape.
I read an article last night in the Financial Times about a group of people from Alberta, I won't describe them as Albertans, who went to the White House seeking the assistance of the United States to break up our country. Now, I understand the desire to hold a referendum, to talk about the issues you want to talk about in Canada. We got free speech, that's important. But to go to a foreign country and to ask for assistance in breaking up Canada, there's an old-fashioned word for that, and that word is treason. It is completely inappropriate to seek to weaken Canada, to seek to go and ask for assistance to break up this country from a foreign power. And with respect, a president who has not been particularly respectful of Canada's sovereignty. I'm going to be raising that issue at this table. I think that while we can respect the right of any Canadian to express themselves, to vote in a referendum, I think we need to draw the line at people seeking the assistance of foreign countries to break up this beautiful land of ours that our forefathers, our foremothers, our parents, our grandparents fought for. There is a line.
So strong words from the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby. He is suggesting that he's not against the people of Alberta holding a referendum. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, he says. But when these people go to Washington and when they ask for help from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada and break up Canada, that's a step too far. Way too far. A step so far, it's treason. These people are committing treason. Harsh words. And as I say, it kind of came right out of the blue. It's not like he was asked about it or anything. He just kind of launched into it. He says he's going to bring it up with the Prime Minister in this meeting that's happening right now. So as I say, developing story, maybe nothing comes of it. Maybe it turns into a big, big story. I'll tell you, if I was a member of the Parliamentary Press Gallery, I would be staking out Premier Smith today, and I would be asking, hey, Premier Smith, do you agree that some of the leaders of the Alberta separatist movement are committing treason? Wouldn't you like to hear her answer to that question? Or if I was a member of the press gallery, I would ask the Prime Minister the same question. Are these separatists committing treason? Premier David Eby says they are. What do you think, Mr. Prime Minister? I will be curious to see where this goes. The Prime Minister has scheduled a news conference for a little more than an hour from now. We will be listening in. Some of these Alberta separatists have gone to Washington. They have been open about wanting the Trump administration to help bankroll the creation of an independent Alberta. They are going to a foreign country and asking for help to break up this country. David Eby says that's treason. Do you think that's treason? Let's start there and see where the conversation goes today. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that and we will make your call a priority. Are the Alberta separatists who want help from the Trump administration to break up Canada committing treason, as the Premier of British Columbia suggests? What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. Lines available. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Just to set the stage a little bit more for you, the Premier of British Columbia says some Alberta separatists are committing treason by asking for help from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada. That some Alberta separatists are traitors to Canada. They're committing treason. All of this is happening with the premiers in Ottawa today for a First Minister's meeting. And given what Premier Eby of BC said, reporters asked Doug Ford for a comment. And Doug Ford said, well, Danielle Smith, you've got to make your position clear. Either you're with Canada or you're not. Let's listen to this.
You know, something I'm dead against that. You know, going behind Canada's back and negotiating is unacceptable. We're one country, and we should all be sticking together. We shouldn't have groups going around the federal government's back or the province's back to negotiate something with the U.S. We all know where President Trump stands. He wants Canada, and that's not going to happen. We'll fight with every tool we have. So I find that unacceptable. I don't know about treason. It's unacceptable. It's unethical. I'm a little disappointed that they've done this. But this is an opportunity for Premier Smith to stand up and say enough is enough. And either you're with Canada or you're not with Canada. I'm with Canada right across the board.
Quote, this is an opportunity for Premier Smith to stand up and say enough is enough. Either you're with Canada or you're not with Canada. Premier Smith did not take reporters' questions well on her way into the meeting today. We'll see if she has any comments later today. It's Talkback on News Radio. Let's get to some calls. Linda is in Calgary. Hi, Linda.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Linda. Yeah, I'm good. Are these separatists committing treason?
Well, treason is a strong word, but I do agree. I think it's ridiculous that everybody is playing into Trump's power. We are Canadians, and we should stand as Canadians. Our forefathers fought for this country to be as a country, and it's absolutely absurd that these people are so easily swayed by the state.
Okay. But do you think they're selling out the country, committing treason? You say it's a strong word, but does it apply here?
It is.
The Premier says it applies here.
It is a strong word, but I agree. I mean, who needs him to be involved in our country? It's enough already. He's going to create havoc in this world. We don't need him to create havoc in our country. We can stand alone, and we need to be strong.
Okay, I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. Linda in Calgary to Halifax today. Dave is in Halifax. Hi, Dave.
Yes, hi, Rob. Have you got me?
Hi, Dave. Yeah, I got you. Just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for taking my call. Isn't that ironic that Premier Ford would say that these folks are going behind our back as a country, and yet he claimed that Mark Carney went over to China and made this auto deal with the EVs with China without talking to him or letting him know what the behind his back, and now you got job cuts in Ontario right now, right? So to me, Rob, is how did we get here? How do we get to the point where our country, and you also have Quebec on the horizon, right? You got some separatist movement there and talk, and Quebec over the years, Rob, you've been around long enough, threatens the heck out of the rest of Canada. We give them what they want to make them happy, and we could be in that scenario again, right? And Alberta finances the whole country, in my opinion, with its it's the teat of Canada when it comes to the money.
Fair enough. But you have people who don't want to be part of Canada. They are going to the United States. They say they're having meetings with people in the Trump administration, in the Treasury Department, banks on Wall Street to help finance Alberta leaving Canada, breaking up our country. They're going to another country for help in breaking up our country. David Eby says that's treason. David Eby says it's treason. Do you think that's treason?
Well, David Eby barely got in last election, but he's in. That's the fact, right? So, but the thing is, to me, how did we get to this point where we're so radicalized to this point where Canadians, not just one, not a handful, but there seems to be a movement here. And, you look at our last election, Rob, when we were 10 years under the Liberal, and I'm not going to blame it entirely because COVID put a put a number on the world, but the way we manage it, you have the freedom fighters in Ottawa, and the way that was dealt with, people are angry. We're really angry. We're scared. We don't know.
Right.
And
but when they go to another country
so.
and they say, when they go to another country and they say, help us leave Canada, is that treason?
No, because you've got countries around the world that are beckoning for the United States to help them out because, they're under radical, leadership and what have you. So I'm thinking, no, I don't like it, Rob. I don't like it. And we're playing right into Trump's hands. We've got it. We're festering. We're a festering wound. I'm telling you right now, Rob, in my opinion, we are a divided country. I hear it all the time.
Well, I think that's
very
pretty clear.
divided.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Got to run. Okay. Just getting started on Talkback here on News Radio. Provocative comments today have taken over the news cycle of this First Minister's meeting in Ottawa. And Premier of BC, Premier Eby, says some of these Alberta separatists are traitors. They are traitors. They are committing treason by going to a foreign country and asking for help to break up our country. You agree with them? 1-833-668-2577 and have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The Premier of British Columbia says some Alberta separatists are committing treason because they're asking for help from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada and break up our country. Is that treason? Sean in Cambridge. Up next, Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hi. Good afternoon. Yeah, while I was waiting, I decided to actually look up the Criminal Code of Canada on treason, see what treason actually is in Canada. So, treason in Canada is if you're using force or violence for the purpose of overthrowing the government of Canada or a province without lawful authority communicates or makes available to an agent of a state other than Canada, military or scientific information, any sketch plan, model, article, etc. So if they carry on with this, yes, they could be approaching actual treason, and it is one of the most severe penalties on the books in Canada. You'd be looking at mandatory life imprisonment without possibility of parole for 25 years, quite honestly. Yeah.
All right. Do you think that's what they're doing?
Well,
committing
if
treason.
If they're going to a foreign government and looking for help to overthrow basically the government of Canada, yes, they are.
Well, not necessarily to overthrow the government of Canada, but to leave Canada, to break up Canada, certainly. Canada would not be the same.
They would be overthrowing the government of the province of Alberta, which is the same. I mean, we're splitting hairs, but yes, they are overthrowing a lawful government. I mean, it's okay to discuss it among yourselves, but as soon as you go to a foreign power, you're committing treason.
Okay. I'm kind of with you on that part of your analysis. I don't buy it, but they would be overthrowing this. I mean, if this referendum goes ahead, it's with the blessing of the Alberta government. The Alberta government under Danielle Smith changed the rules to make it easier to have a referendum. Sean, but thank you for your call to Calgary now. Let's get a call from Calgary. Roger. Hi, Roger.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, hi, Roger. What do you think? Are these people committing treason?
Yes, I do. I think that they should leave and don't let the door slam them in the back.
Really? Okay. What makes you say that? That they're committing treason? I mean, pretty serious accusation.
Okay. They're going to. They want the American. Oh my God. They want to leave Canada, and they want to go to the States. That's 100%. You're breaking the country up. No matter how you look at it, that's not good.
Okay. If they were just like, take for example, let's say the Quebec separatists, where our identity is different, our culture is different, our language is different, and we don't think Canada works for us, so we want to leave. Do you think the difference? Sure, they have, but do you think it's different here because they're actively seeking help from another country? Is that the big difference here for you? You think that's the big difference? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, if you think they're committing treason, Should they be arrested? It's a criminal act, treason. Like, should we round them up, charge them, put them on trial?
I don't think that you'd have enough to actually book them.
Okay.
As far as enough evidence to be able to put them to trial, to be able to actually enforce the law. I think at this time, it's a little bit too soon. You give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves. And yes, I do believe that they would have enough evidence and be able to charge them and put them in prison. But right now, it's too soon.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask that because the Premier of British Columbia was very I'm going to bring this up with the Prime Minister. We're going to raise this today, and this can't. Well, what do you mean by that? Like, what's the next step then if they're traitors to the country? What do you do? Put them in orange jumpsuits? I'm just curious. Have your say. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I read an article last night in the Financial Times about a group of people from Alberta, I won't describe them as Albertans, who went to the White House seeking the assistance of the United States to break up our country. Now, I understand the desire to hold a referendum to talk about the issues you want to talk about in Canada. We got free speech, that's important. But to go to a foreign country and to ask for assistance in breaking up Canada, there's an old-fashioned word for that, and that word is treason.
David Eby today in Ottawa on the Alberta separatists, some of the Alberta separatists, says asking for help from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada, you're committing treason. Do you agree with him? 1-833-668-2577. Glenn is in Halifax today. Hi, Glenn.
Good afternoon there, brother.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Glenn.
Can you hear me?
What do you think? I hear you just fine.
No,
yeah, go ahead. What's your opinion?
I don't think it's treason. No, I mean, treason is something that is happening during wartime, and maybe even not during wartime, but when you're staying in Canada and you want to be a Canadian, but you want to separate. Look at Quebec. Would you call all those times we had that sovereign vote for separating in Quebec? Would you call them that's treason? It's the same thing. I mean, what about all our people that leave our country because they can't live in Canada because the prices are too high and they don't agree with practically anything that the federal government has imposed in the last 10 years, and yet they voted for them back in again just because they lowered the carbon tax like the Conservatives wanted to do. Well, to me, what about these people that walk across the floor from other parties to another party? Would you call that treason? I call that traitors myself. Now, I might call these people in Alberta that want to leave Canada, then what they should do themselves is not to go to Washington and ask Washington to help them, because Washington is really not going to, let's be honest, Washington aren't going to help those people to help them make Canada or make their province separate. That's not going to happen. So the Premier of British Columbia, he's just giving them a lot of free publicity for what they've been doing, and that's wrong. Leave those people alone, and leave it alone, and it'll go away. And so my idea is, or my suggestion is, let's not gloat on this so much, is because it's not that really important, and I don't believe it's treason, because treason represents a very, very serious thing that you're going against while you're still living in Canada. No, that's not treason. No.
Not treason. Not treason. What if the Quebec separatists went to France and said, "Please help us leave Canada"? France, give us money so we can leave.
Rob, weren't they with France one time? Quebec?
Well, Quebec was the parts of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Quebec was New France.
Right. I don't
right? How far back you want to go to the 1750s?
I don't believe it'd be just like our province here in Nova Scotia. If we wanted to separate from Canada we would never be able to survive on our own, because right now we're practically bankrupt anyway in the whole country. No, we'd have no choice.
No,
but
not
probably...
treason. Okay, Glenn, not treason, not treason. David Eby says it's treason. What they're doing is treason. They're asking another country for help in breaking up our country, and that's treason. What do you think? Mark in Calgary. Let's go to Mark up next. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Rob. I'm glad you were well.
Hi.
I think it's treason.
Yep, well as to be expected. Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's treason. Right now in Alberta, well, Trump is the conqueror, right? He's going for everywhere, right? So why not try Alberta? He's running out of places to try to take over. And obviously, this morning I heard in the radio that the Blood Tribe is being warned not to go to the States because they're being checked for where they live from. And, it's just surreal what's going on here. I believe that that's a very small minority of people wanting to separate. And the ones I've heard say, well, we just want to get attention to Ottawa that, 8 years of Trudeau, and it's a new era now. It's not Trudeau anymore. We're looking to Ottawa because it's a new government. It's 100% better, and that's just my feeling. I don't know if they should be, it's almost like life in prison for treason. I don't know if that's appropriate, but they're definitely.
Well, it depends on whether it's treason or high treason. It could be life with no parole for 25 years, or if it's not high treason, then it would be like high treason would be trying to kill the prime minister or trying to kill the king or something like that. That would be high treason. Okay, but it would, if it's not that, it would be 14 years. Serious. But I mean, do you think they're committing treason?
Well,
they've gone
I do think
to the U.S. State Department 3 times in the last year or so. They are seeking, this is in the Financial Times today, a $500 billion credit facility to bankroll the province if an independence referendum is passed. Is that treason to do that? To go to the United States, please give us a loan for $500 billion so we can break up Canada. We don't want to be part of Canada anymore. We have a stronger relationship with the United States than Canada. We want to leave. Is that treason? David Eby says it's treason. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The Premier of British Columbia says some Alberta separatists are committing treason because they're asking for help from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada, and that's treason. Lori is in Calgary, and Lori is a separatist. You're an Alberta separatist. Hello, Lori.
I am. Hello.
Hello. Are you a traitor? Are you a traitor?
I am not a traitor. I'm a proud Albertan, for sure. You said in the last exit that they were trying to secure funds for the separatist, to support the separation of Alberta if there was a positive vote for the referendum to leave Alberta or to leave Canada. That to me is not being a traitor. That I think that they were looking for $500 billion, and of course that would be leveraged against the oil sands. That doesn't mean that we would be becoming part of the United States. It would be wonderful to be the Republic of Alberta, but I absolutely do not believe they're acting in the role of a traitor whatsoever. They're not asking them to help split up the country. They're asking them to help finance the new border, a passport, a currency, and all of the things that we would need to declare ourselves a country unto ourselves.
So it's about the transition to statehood, in your opinion?
Transition into the Republic of Alberta. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a transition to the 51st state of the United States. I have no doubt that Trump, and I'm not pro-Trump, but Trump and all of his cabinet would like nothing more than to have their hands on one of the largest oil reserves on the planet that is state of the art when it comes to the development of the oil sands, and is generating oil and gas in a rate far higher than Venezuela. That would be I think that would be the way that Trump would get his face on.
Some people are thinking, Lori, the Trump administration, one way or another, is going to get involved if there's a campaign. There's a referendum campaign. They're going to get involved one way or the other for the pro-sovereignty movement. What do you think about that?
I have considered that in the past before. One of his MOs is to declare elections rigged or void if they don't come out in his favor. Yeah. So absolutely, I think that is a distinct possibility. And you know, I on the water cooler, I talk to my coworkers, and I will say I'm the only separatist amongst the group. But I have said that, you know, it's entirely possible that when this referendum goes ahead, and I truly do believe it will go ahead. I mean, the latest polling is somewhere between 25 to 31% of Albertans are in favor of separating, but that doesn't mean that they're in favor of becoming the 51st state, much like me. But if the referendum, which will happen, comes out with a number like that, I think it's a very distinct possibility that the United States would sweep in. And I don't necessarily know if they did sweep in, if it would be limited to Alberta. You know, Saskatchewan, I don't think would be far behind us. And honestly, northern BC. The Canadian military recently I can't remember the name of the newspaper, but they were talking about the military was looking at scenarios where the United States.
We talked about that the week before last. They're game planning. They're modeling things out. Okay, that's a conversation for another day, Lori. But thank you. You don't think it's treason? She's a separatist. Eric in Cole Harbour. Let's take another call here in Nova Scotia. Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Rob. Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
I don't look at it as a treason. I look at it as an act of desperation. In my point of view, the Liberal government for the last 10 years has failed the social contract the government owes to all its citizens in the country. And if you look at our large oil reserves, we could be paying right now about 60 cents a liter, 55 cents a liter. Think of what that would mean if we had the pipeline. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you want to talk about treason can be also defined as turning your back on your own people by breaking that social contract. And my observation is that they have done it. I don't think it's a good idea for people going down and begging for money for Trump. I don't think that's a good idea, but I think that it could all be put to bed if they would move on the pipelines, and it would be so beneficial for the rest of us. We wouldn't be paying $1.50, $1.33 with this lunacy about CO2 and net zero emissions. It has nothing. I'm not going to get into a weather thing, but it's not relevant.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Situation.
Yeah. Sure enough. But you don't think they're committing treason by going down to Washington?
I think it's an act of desperation.
Act of desperation. Okay. Thank you, Eric. Be right back with more of your calls on a Hot Talkback today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It appears as though the First Minister's meeting has concluded. The Prime Minister is making some remarks right now, opening remarks in both English and French about what was discussed during this meeting. A lot of talk about Team Canada, CUSMA negotiations coming up later this year. There will be monthly First Ministers meetings once those negotiations begin. And lots of talk about diversifying our trade. No questions yet. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about the remarks from Premier David Eby, who said today some Alberta separatists are committing treason because they're asking for help from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada. Keith is up next on that one. Keith is in Calgary. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Rob. Thanks so much for taking my call. Appreciate it.
You're welcome,
Hey,
Keith.
so,
Are these
a little
people
bit of clarity.
traitors? Are they traitors to the country?
No, they're not traitors to the country. It's traitors to a country we don't want to be in. So I don't know how we could be traitors in that form. We're not trying to break up the country. We're not trying to overthrow the government. We just want out. We're done. Enough's enough. And the Alberta Prosperity Group is one of a number of groups that are promoting the petition for having a referendum. They're not the spokesperson for everybody. What that referendum will look like, what the questions will be, and what the results of that will be, if it happens to be yes, that's still to be talked about and still to be decided. We don't know. And quite frankly, I'm happy that there is a group petitioning Washington. I'd like to know what all our possibilities and options are when we go into the referendum so we can go in open-eyed and not be wondering what could happen or if this is going to happen or that's going to happen. So the more clarity we have, the better. So are they doing treason? No. I think they're definitely checking in to see what would happen and what can we call on. And most important, would we get the recognition that we need as a country? Because without that, and that's part of one of the UN Charter rules, I believe, that if you want to, succeed from the country you're in, then you have to have recognition of other foreign countries as a country. Now, I could be wrong. Just another
Premier
matter,
Eby
Rob.
seems to be saying, okay, have your referendum. That's one thing. Have a referendum, express your opinion if you're unhappy with the state of confederation, which clearly some people in Alberta are, but it is a step too far and, in fact, treason when you start going to another country and asking for help to break up this country. He says that's treasonous.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm 67. I seem to remember back when Quebec wanted to separate from the country, there was elements in that separation group that were actively petitioning the French government for help. I don't recall them being called treasonous. I don't recall them saying that they should be put on trial. So why is it when Quebec does it, it's, all right, well, no, we love you, please stay. But when Alberta does it, you're treasonous, you should be lined up against a wall, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't understand the hypocrisy on the 2 points of view.
Okay, thank you for your call.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
So as expected, the comments from Premier David Eby this morning in Ottawa that some Alberta separatists are committing treason because they've been going to Washington and actively seeking assistance from the Trump administration to help Alberta leave Canada. This has taken over this First Minister's meeting in Ottawa. They're into the question and answer session now. And the first question was for Premier David Eby. We're listening in live here. This is News Radio.
Was this addressed in the meeting? And also omit to Premier Smith if she wants to comment on it, as well as the Prime Minister.
Thanks, Ian. Are we good? First of all, I'd like to thank my colleagues. There is a huge issue of priority in British Columbia, which is the extortion threat faced by the people of Surrey. I know it's present in other provinces across the country. For all of us to come together and call on parliamentarians federally to pass Bill C-14 as expeditiously as possible is crucial for us. What we're seeing in Surrey is it's a terror attack in slow motion, and you would never dream of giving refugee status to someone who participated in a terror attack, but that's exactly what's happening. Under our current system, that loophole has to be closed. This is one of the provisions in C14 that we're looking to get passed. I would also like to thank the Prime Minister for highlighting a key advantage of our country, which is clean, cheap electricity. British Columbia is keen to work with the federal government on regionalization of power grids, supporting our friends of the Yukon, our trade partners next door in Alberta, around clean, reliable, cheap electricity, and that work across the country is crucial to our future. Finally, Ian, to your question, this is a country my grandparents fought for, that many people before them helped to build. It's made up of First Nations who have been here since time immemorial, as well as immigrants who just got off the airplane today with hearts full of hope of their new adopted country. This is a country we have to fight for. And there are lots of people who would like to take it from us. We need to express in this moment, especially when the country faces such a profound threat, we need to express that we will fight for this country, that we'll stand up for it, and that those who don't wish to, those who would solicit a foreign government to try to come in and take over our country or break it up, that's not part of our vision for Canada. That's not Canadian conduct, and in fact, that is, I described it as an old-fashioned word because we haven't had to use it for a long time. In my opinion, that is treasonous activity, and it needs to be called out. It needs to be stopped. Now, I'm not talking about debates that we have inside the country among Canadians about how we order ourselves, our relationships between the federal government and the provinces, referenda that might be held. I'm talking about crossing the border, soliciting the assistance of a foreign government to break up this country, and I don't think we should stand for it.
Premier Smith,
I think it goes automatically.
Oh, it goes on automatically when I speak? It's working? Oh, okay. It works. Well, let me just support Premier Eby and his comments about C14. We think that's very important to get passed. We've also, when he called for the Lawrence Bishnois gang to be declared a terrorist group, we also agreed to that. I'm glad he's open to expanding the interties. We look forward to selling him some more excess solar and wind power. And as you can see, we've got lots of things that we can work on together. I've always been clear that me and our United Conservative Caucus are supportive of a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. That is one of the bills that we passed when I first came in. But I think we also have to be realistic that 10 years under Justin Trudeau's government, our province was relentlessly attacked. Our economy was relentlessly attacked, not only for our economy, but our provincial rights and also our personal freedoms and our way of life. And so when you look at the polls, they suggest as many as 30% of Albertans have lost hope. That's about 1 million people. And I'm not going to demonize or marginalize a million of my fellow citizens when they've got legitimate grievances. What we need to do is we need to give Albertans hope. We need to show them, not just tell them, not just words, but with actions that Canada can work. And that's what I've been doing. That's why I signed an agreement with the Prime Minister in November so that we could work in common cause on correcting some of the mistakes, I would say, of the Trudeau government. And it's why we participate in these kinds of First Ministers' conferences so that we can find the things that we agree on and work together for that, for the betterment of the country. And I think this is a very powerful table that has been able to do that for the last 3 years that I've been on it. And I'm honored and delighted to be here.
Something else. Would Canada agree to an increased external trade policy agreement alignment with the U.S. as part of changes to USMCA, including on China? And what about a customs union?
Well, I find one of the most effective ways to negotiate is not to negotiate in public, so we'll wait till we have the broader discussions with the United States as part of a review, not a renegotiation, but a review of CUSMA. Thank you.
Next question, Mark.
Mark Ramsey with the Toronto Star. Prime Minister, what do you make of the Trump administration's meetings with Alberta separatists and the comments of Secretary Bessent? Is this foreign interference from the U.S.?
The governments that are going to make a difference to Canada, to Alberta, to Canada, are at this table, I guess alongside with municipalities and working with our Indigenous partners. And the focus of the meeting last night, today, the meeting of the Council of Federation before that, was how we come together and build. How we build a better country, how we build safer communities. A number of specific points were just referenced by Premiers Eby and Smith, from addressing extortion, crime in the community. I know Premier Ford and I have been very focused on this as well, as we have across the country. I appreciate the support of the premiers, all the premiers, for Bill C-14. It's part of a bigger picture of measures that need to be taken. And just the power, I'm going to stop on this, just the sheer power of what we're starting to do and intend to do on the energy side, being stronger together, linking together our systems, doubling the size of our electricity grid, extending our clean energy advantage, doing it in a way that's affordable for Canadians, using all our sources of energy to build this economy to all markets around the world, makes this country stronger and makes those conversations less relevant.
Kevin, he was asked if this is foreign interference by the Trump administration and if this is treason. And Premier Smith was also asked, is this treason? I don't think she really answered the question either. But that's the latest from the First Minister's meeting right now, an explosive day in Ottawa. Your reaction, please. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I thank you all for your patience as we listen to the latest developments in this story. The genesis, the Premier of BC saying some Alberta separatists are committing treason because they're going to Washington. They're having meetings and they're seeking help for the Alberta separation movement. Is that treason in your opinion? Steve is up next. I know it's been a long wait there, Steve. I appreciate you waiting today. Go ahead. What do you think?
Thanks for taking my call. Well, I'd like to get an opinion a legal opinion on what it really is. Now, it got a little bit more interesting when you said that they've been down there multiple times. I think what we need to do, or someone needs to do, is follow the money. Right. So one thing, and Glenn, I hate to admit he's from Nova Scotia or Cole Harbour or Halifax, but what happens with these groups, and the CIA and the American government, they are the best in the world at destabilizing other governments throughout the world. So, when these guys are going down there, rallying for dollars or whatever they're doing, they're also meeting with other people. What they're doing in Alberta right now, it costs money to do that. I'd like to know who's funding the effort right now to for the separatist movement, because it's not cheap to do what they're doing, right? And at the end of the day, whether they're it's treason or not, I think they're traitors and that they should be shot and pissed on. But that's just my opinion. The other big thing that's going on here is we got Captain Canada there from BC, resting on his laurels, talking about this bill and that bill, right? If these guys were really serious, the same as the goof in Quebec, if these guys are really serious about keeping this country together and doing what's right for this country and making this country the best country on the planet, we would be getting pipelines to both coasts. All these things to get our resources to market all over the world, not just the United States. That would be their utmost priority, right? Instead, they're resting on the laurels and we'll take your clean energy and we'll do this, we'll do that. But what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander, and those guys need to shake their heads.
Okay, thank you for your call. Let's take one more here. Paul, I think, is up next in Calgary. Paul, are you with me?
Hey. Yeah, I'm with you.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I don't think they're traitors. I think if the referendum happens and if they get the yes vote, then they need to know what to do afterwards, and talking to people to figure that out. That's not treasonous. That's just good planning for the future. And that's all it is.
Okay. Do you think that's all they're doing?
yeah, that's all I think they're doing. I mean, I haven't seen them say otherwise. I haven't seen anyone prove otherwise. All they've been doing is having conversation. As far as I know, we still have free speech in this country.
Sure.
You know, they're free to talk to whoever they want and figure out. It's just good to plan ahead. If there is a yes vote and we end up separating, then yeah, we need to know how to proceed.
Do you think that the Trump administration, because this is sort of the underpinnings of this, that the Trump administration is going to meddle in this referendum campaign, that they are going to be, the separatists are going to be assisted by the Trump administration in an attempt to, as the previous caller said, sow division, create chaos within Canada? Destabilize,
Well,
I believe was the word that he used.
people are going to believe that, but I know people are going to believe that, but I don't believe it. I don't see it happening. I don't see evidence of it happening. You know, people can believe what they want, but when there's no evidence to actually prove it, you know.
Well, let's listen to let's listen to a clip. Let's listen to a clip together, and you and I, we can parse these words together, okay? So Scott Bessent is the Treasury Secretary in the United States. All right, this is what he said recently about what's going on in Alberta. Let's play that tape.
Alberta is a wealth of natural resources, but they won't let them build a pipeline to the Pacific. I think we should let them come down into the U.S., and Alberta is a natural partner for the U.S. They have great resources. The Albertans are very independent people. Rumored that they may have a referendum on whether they want to stay in Canada or not.
You think that's meddling in our affairs? Foreign interference?
I don't.
Is that foreign interference?
I don't think it's meddling. You know, he's allowed to have his opinion, and that's his opinion, and he's expressed it. And do I think it's meddling? I don't think so. I don't think he's said he's for. You know what I mean? He's for it because they want it. They obviously want our resources. But you know, I don't think that's interference.
You don't think it's interference? Fair enough. Thank you. Be right back with more of your calls on the hot topic of the day. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Prime Minister Carney looks incredibly annoyed that all of this talk about separation and treason has totally taken over this First Minister's meeting in Ottawa. He was asked about conversations that he has had with President Trump, but whether separation either in Alberta or Quebec has come up. Let's listen to this.
I'd like to ask, in those conversations, has he ever raised the prospect of Alberta or Quebec separation?
No.
Have you raised concerns about the administration's comments, Mr. Bessent's comments, as well as these meetings, with anyone from the Trump administration?
There are channels to raise those concerns. I haven't I mean, these comments are within the past 24, 48 hours. I don't have a running commentary on everything the administration does. I stand by what I just said about respecting our sovereignty, our expectations of the U.S. administration, and the clarity with which I've always expressed that directly to the president.
Sounds frustrated, I think. He wanted to come out today and the message be, we're all on the same page. We're all rowing in the same direction. We talked about CUSMA negotiations. We talk about diversifying our trade. We talk about building. And so many of the questions are the result of Premier Eby's comments this morning about some Alberta separatists being traitors to the country and that they're committing treason. Patrick is in Nova Scotia. Thank you for waiting, Patrick. You're on the air. Hi, Patrick.
Good day. Thank you. I'm going to start off with something that, jokingly, I'll tell you, is your fault because you played that last clip, and I have to make a comment. Number one, as usual, most of the American politicians are uninformed and naive about Canada. Otherwise, he would know that we already have 2 pipelines to the Pacific, both under capacity, and also to the States, it's their government's fault for not restarting the Keystone, and they could be getting more oil. So on to my subject that I called for. I'll try to make it brief. I have 2 points. I think a lot of what's going on in your first hour may be moot or maybe even superfluous because Eby should have explained what our Constitution, Charter of Rights, determines is treason, because different countries give it a different meaning. So using the word treason, if you went by the OED, a dictionary, they're not really committing treason. They're committing more sedition than treason, which is what I thought they did in Ottawa during COVID. I consider that sedition, not treason, but of course the courts disagreed. So first we have to determine, how do you interpret the word treason? Can you tell me that?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, sir. I'm not equipped to get into the legalities of what is treason and what is not treason.
I mean, the crime of
the dictionary meaning. Well, I haven't looked. Okay, I haven't looked it up in the dictionary today. Maybe that's an oversight on my part.
The crime of betraying one's, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or otherwise overthrow the government. Nobody. I don't think anybody's doing that.
Right.
Okay, maybe being traitorous. Yeah. I mean, but sedition is a conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority. So maybe it's closer to that. I'm not even going to look up traitor because, again, every country would determine it differently. And in some countries, you'd be put to death for it. So Eby should have come out with a true meaning of the word, where he threw it out. And we really should not take it seriously. Good for leverage.
Don't take it seriously. Gotcha. Thank you. They're going to cut us off. We've got to run. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, what a day of fast-moving events it has been, with a First Minister's meeting in Ottawa and the Premier of British Columbia getting the party started this morning, saying some Alberta separatists are committing treason by going to Washington and meeting with people in the Trump administration. Let's continue gathering reaction to that and speak with Bob in Waterloo. Hello, Bob.
How are you today? Thanks for taking my call.
Very good, sir. Just trying to follow along, sir. Thank you.
I hear that. So, in a nutshell, absolutely. And I got one piece of advice for the people that are trying to separate. You don't have to separate. Just get the hell out of the country. There's a country down south that'll take you. If that's how you feel, goodbye. And I have 2 daughters born in Alberta. I was there for a long time. Beautiful country out there.
Really? So how does it make you feel to know that these people are going to, they've been going to Washington and, meeting with people? How does that go over with you?
Well, it used to be illegal to hang or to tie a hangman's knot, but we could change that.
Really?
I would be adverse to bringing back. I would not be adverse to bringing back the capital punishment for any treason to this country. I'm ex-military, and if it comes down to it, I'm 68 years old. I'll re-up in about 3 seconds flat.
Really? You feel that passionate about the issue?
This is my country. I served my country. I will defend my country to my dying breath.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your call. Just to be clear, I'm not in favor of the death penalty at all, but that's just my own opinion. The story that has really, set all of this off, again, it was in a UK publication in the Financial Times, albeit out of the Washington Bureau of the Financial Times. This is what it says. The Trump administration has held covert meetings with fringe separatists from Canada's oil-rich province of Alberta as a rift deepens between Washington and Ottawa. Leaders of the Alberta Prosperity Project, a group of far-right separatists who want the Western province to become independent, met U.S. State Department officials in Washington 3 times since April of last year, according to people familiar with the talks. They are seeking another meeting next month with state and treasury officials to ask for a $500 billion credit facility to help bankroll the province if an independence referendum, yet to be called, is passed. Quote, the U.S. is extremely enthusiastic about a free and independent Alberta, Jeff Rath, APP legal counsel, who attended the meetings, told the Financial Times. He claimed that he had a much stronger relationship with the Trump administration than Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. A State Department spokesperson said the department regularly meets with civil society types, as is typical in routine meetings such as these. No commitments were made. A White House official said administration officials meet with a number of civil society groups. No such support or any other commitments was conveyed. Well, that's in the Financial Times today. And David Eby of BC says, that's treason. What do you think? Mike is in Calgary. You're up next, Mike. What do you think?
Well, good afternoon, first of all. Listening in, into all the national discourse for all the Albertans who are standing up for their rights. As a separatist, I can tell you I'm not a treasonist, and I am offended by those so many comments that are coming across Canada that this movement in Alberta is anything but a peaceful, grassroots, legal movement that was established by the Constitution of this country. So I am very offended by some of the comments of some of your listeners, and very offended by guys like leaders like David Eby, who, by his definition of treason, would be treasonous in his treatment of property rights in BC and his treatment in blocking resource development and Alberta prosperity. One thing that I don't think Canadians understand, that the separatist movement, the independence movement, as we want to call it, in Alberta is a grassroots movement. It's not funded. It's nonpartisan. It has a loosely group of organizers that are not funded nationally. They're selling T-shirts. They're selling hats. They're passing around boxes of money, passing the hat around gymnasiums. This movement is growing from the people, by the people. This is not a political interference. This is Albertans speaking up for their rights to exist as a prosperous country. And that's what we want. It's crazy to think anything different.
Okay. What's your take on this Jeff Rath guy?
Well, Jeff
what do you
Rath
think about him?
Jeff is one spokesman for the APP movement. He is one of 3 or 4. This movement is nonpartisan with no single leader. That's the part that Canadians really need to think and consider, is that there is no leader. This is not a partisan. It's not funded. This is people going and expressing an opinion. And the separatist movement, independence in Alberta, has gone back decades. We go back to the early 80s with the Western Canada Concept and Gordon Kessler and some of those, and electing a federal MP. So this movement is very much grassroots. And I don't hear comments like this when we have a bloc leader in Quebec who is elected to the Canadian Parliament. We don't call him a treasonous guy.
Well, he's cheering you on. He's cheering you on.
Yeah. Well, we're cheering him on, too, because, I think the thing is Canadians need to wake up. You elect 10 years of governments like Justin Trudeau, and then you take his cabinet and you elect the next leader with Carney. There is no same. Alberta will separate. Alberta will get a referendum, and Canada better be prepared to negotiate.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We'll see what happens. The polls, you and I both know, Mike, the polls don't indicate anything close to that right now. That's going to happen. But thank you for your call. Lots of time to fit you in here on this one. For the first time today, some free phone lines, as a matter of fact. 1-833-668-2577. He says he's not a traitor. He says he's not committing treason. He just wants an independent Alberta. David Eby says he's part of a movement that is seeking help from the Trump administration, and that is tantamount to treason. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right to it here. George in Fenn, Alberta. George.
How are you today?
Yeah, good, George. Are you one of the traitors as well?
I am a patriot. And that's right. No taxation without representation. Sound familiar? Our friends of the South have had it. We have it. So we're out, baby. No longer will we be funding all these parasites down east. And you can tell your your jerk that's phoned in and talked about the hangman knot and shoot us all, hang us all. Bring it on, brother. Let's see if you can saying you're going to do is one thing, doing it's another. And I'll tell you a thing about the polls. You said 15, 60%. That's not true. The Western Standard, an independent and neutral newspaper, just had a poll done that that's not paid for by your mainstream media and stuff. So it's not it's not corrupt. 45%.
Somebody paid for it.
The Western Standard paid for it to be independent.
Right. Okay.
And they're an independent newspaper. They do not take money from anybody except the people. So they're doing everything old school on their own. And right now, independent is sitting at 45%, not 15, not 25, not 30, but 45%. And you guys won't cover that. And the lineups. I mean, I waited 3-4 hours. Of course not. Why don't you check the Western Standard website or whatever they call it? And check their poll, and you will see that it's 45% in favor of independence.
Wow.
And the other thing you got to understand is the Democrats in the United States will never let us become the 51st state because we are conservative out here in Alberta.
We've been through all that. You're accused of committing treason by the Premier of BC. What do you think of that?
Well, he's a traitor who hangs out with the communist Chinese, who has sold his own country out to communist China, sold his own people out to communist China, sold the country out to communist China, and he calls us traitors? Give me a break. All them ferries built with Chinese steel, Chinese labor. When there is places in BC, down on the East Coast that build ferries, we could have built them in Canada with Canadian steel, Canadian workers, Canadian stuff, and Canadian money went to China. So who's the traitor? Like I said, we're patriots out here in Alberta.
Patriots. Okay, thank you. I'm welcoming all opinions here. I know it's passionate. I'm on the Western Standard website. I'm just looking for the poll that you reference. I don't see it here right now, but we'll see. Where are we going here? Southwestern Ontario. Scott is in Southwestern Ontario. Hi there, Scott.
Hey, Rob, how are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Good. I think the answer to your question about going to a foreign government and asking for, I think the answer to that question is the question: what would Donald Trump do if the state of Washington was going to vote on separating from the Union of the United States, and representatives from that organization were coming up and talking to Mark Carney's government about how we could help the state of Maine separate from the Union of the United States? What do you think Donald Trump and ICE would have to say about that? Seriously.
What do you think? What do you think?
I think he would be calling them much more than treasonous, and I think that he would have the armed forces and his ICE armed forces up in the state of Washington arresting these people. I think it would already be done, like without question. These people would be deemed traitors, would be thrown into vans and taken to swampland in Florida in a jail. I think that's what would happen in the United States if this was the reverse. But the people of Alberta, a lot of them, they ascend to be like that, to be the United States. Yet in the United States, that wouldn't be what they're doing right now, would not be tolerated for a moment. Not a moment would it be tolerated.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Just on the Western Standard, I'm quite familiar with the Western Standard, even going back to the days when Ezra Levant was deeply involved in the Western Standard. I mean, there is a headline: new poll reflects near perfect split on Albertans' views of Ottawa. Alberta respondents are split in their view of Ottawa, would overwhelmingly vote against independence. That's what I have here on the Western Standard website. While support is growing, most respondents tend to oppose Alberta independence, it says. Strongly oppose, 49%. Moderately oppose, 13%. Not sure, 7%. Moderately support, 14%. And strongly support, 17%. I don't see on this poll where it says 45% support Alberta separation. You may have read the story wrong, George and Fenn, but we'll be right back. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I'll tell you what, this story and these remarks from David Eby, some Alberta separatists are committing treason. It is being reported all over the world now. It was originally a story in the Financial Times out of the UK. The Guardian out of the UK picks up on it as Canada separatists accused of treason after secret talks with U.S. State Department. All of the major Canadian news outlets are covering it, as you can imagine, here at News Radio, City News, CTV News, CBC, Globe and Mail, Global News, National Post. Bloomberg, Canada's Eby says separatists seeking U.S. help are treasonous. The Independent, also out of the UK, Trump officials have met with Canadian separatist group that wants to break off from rest of country. Daily Beast out of the U.S., kind of a liberal-leaning outlet out of the U.S. Trump teams secret meetings with group plotting to break up Canada exposed. The BBC, a natural partner, U.S. Treasury Secretary weighs in on Alberta separatism. The New Republic, Trump team secretly met with group that wants to separate from Canada, and on it goes. There's even a Chinese website here. Trump administration secretly met with Canadian Alberta separatists. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, big story today. All unfolding right before our very eyes and ears. Dave in Calgary, you're going to get the last word here today, Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Rob. This is probably going to frustrate your separatists because I am in Calgary, but it's going to give a little bit of peace of mind for the rest of Canada that not Albertans feel this, including Calgarians. I can tell you right now that I'm not hearing any of this in my social circles. I hear a lot of it on the news. I hear a lot of it about big lineups. But in my social circles, separatism is not a conversation. This has all started from Danielle Smith fanning the flames of this to get votes and to make Trudeau a villain. And then when she wanted to start working with Ottawa to get pipelines built, etc., she's booed by the Jeremy Rass of the world and tries to get a standing ovation that's going on. Your callers, George and Mike, I mean, they're fired up. They're angry. They're frustrated. I get that. But they're also identifying there's no leader. So when you talk to the people in the lines, when they interview the people in the lines to sign to leave Canada, they all have different reasons. Some say, I can't wait to be the 51st state, and others say that they'll never be the 51st state. So the problem is there is no leader and there's no clear indication of what's going on. When we talk about polling, the poll on Western Standard doesn't identify where those people live. And that's a major factor in polling. And so I don't think that the Western Standard is as good as other pollsters like Ipsos. And if you read the Ipsos poll, you can see on there that 30% of people said they would explore separating. But when they talk about, not getting the funding from the federal government in reverse, or not getting creating their own currency, they go down to 15%. So the reality is there's a huge problem here, but separating is not going to be the answer. And I hear the music, so I appreciate getting the final word.
Well, I appreciate you. Good closing comments there. Thank you. We can always pick it up again tomorrow. It's the Friday free-for-all talk back tomorrow. We'll see where the conversation takes us in. That's always an adventure in and of itself. Let's bring you right up to date on all the latest breaking news as it stands right now here on News Radio.